Hey everybody, this is Sid from 360 Home Inspections, and I just want to take a few minutes to talk about walkthroughs. Walkthroughs are fairly new to our area, and there's a couple things to understand about walkthroughs. I just want to go through that, why they came about around here, and exactly what are they, and what do they entail, and what does it mean for you and your clients. So walkthroughs really have been going on in a couple areas for a while now. Like places like DC, a version of the walkthroughs has happened because DC's always been a hot market. It's always been a seller's market. So there's always been creative ways to have to get those deals in and secured. But they're fairly new for us. So they really started coming around shortly after the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we had a slight dip in that first month of the lockdowns, and then it kind of went back to normal, and then it kind of really took off, right? The market as far as real estate goes. And then when that happened, there was a lot of buyers, especially as we started transitioning, as companies started transitioning to remote positions, and they started making the decision to stay remote. And then a lot of those buyers started relocating to places they wanted to live because they didn't have to look for a new job. So, and then a lot of people needed bigger houses or wanted bigger houses because to accommodate the remote work that was going to be or looking to be a permanent fixture in their homes or their lives. So when that happened, inventory didn't keep up with that. Inventory dropped. So buyers went up, inventory dropped. And then we led to this high demand and where we had 20, 30, 40, 80 showings in some cases, numerous offers. So people started getting a little crazy with their offers. They started getting creative with their offers. And part of that was waiving the home inspection, like not even for informational purposes, to the point where the buyer wasn't even allowed to have a home inspection or a home inspector on the property after the contract was ratified. So from a home inspection standpoint, that started to make some of us a little worried because we didn't really know where the industry was going to go, right? We didn't know if we were going to survive or how we were going to survive. So part of coming up with the walkthroughs was looking at some of these markets like DC to see what they were doing and see if we can evolve it into our market. One was for the selfish reason to make sure that we were able to still pay our bills. The other reason was to really offer something for clients so they were able to at least get something. And it's important to understand that walkthroughs are not a substitute for home inspections, but they're at least able to give some small snapshot of the overall condition of the house. And that's what we wanted to offer buyers, because again, when we're doing these during showings. So sometimes the showing is 15 minutes. Sometimes you're lucky enough to get a showing for 45 minutes or an hour, but the average showing is typically about 30 minutes. And that's when we come in and we're really just consulting, we're walking the property, and they go by many names: walk and talks, walkthroughs, consultations, pre-show, pre-offer, whatnot. But so there's two things that you really need to remember when it comes to these walkthroughs. And this went through the asbestos-led and home inspectors board last summer. And because there were some reports to the board asking about the validity of these, are they legal? Are we allowed to do them? Things like that. And the board got together, and to my knowledge, this has not changed. And if it has changed, we'll be sure to do an updated video. But my understanding, the board came to the conclusion, and the conclusion was really these are okay and these are allowed as long as they meet two conditions. The first condition is that we are not allowed to call them inspections. So that's why we call them walk and talks, walkthroughs, and whatnot. So we see a lot of realtors call them inspections, and that's okay. Because the realtors aren't subjected to the regulations by the home inspection board, but you will never see us, or you should never see us refer to these as inspections. These are walkthroughs, consultations, many other names, but they're not inspections. The other condition is that we can't provide a written report. So these are strictly verbal communication between us and the client, us and the realtor. And the reason for that being is the board has said that if we fail at any one of those things, whether we call it an inspection or we do a written report, then all of a sudden it becomes a home inspection. And a home inspection is subjected to the rules and regulations set forth by the Commonwealth and the board. So when that happens, we have to meet certain standards that's outlined in our standards of practice, which is written into Virginia law, since Virginia is a licensed state, right? So once we do that, we have to meet those minimum standards or those standards of practice. And a walkthrough does not meet those standards, right? Because there's just not enough time for us to complete a full home inspection. So if we do one of those two things, then we are subjected to, of course, board review and fines and things like that. So that's why sometimes we'll get asked, hey, can you provide a written report? We can't. It's not because we don't want to, because we just can't. Because once we do that, then we're opening ourselves up to liability in how we operate our business. And we just don't want to do that. So those are two key important factors to understand as you're doing these walkthroughs. So what is a walkthrough? Great question. So when you call us, and a lot of times these are done in, last minute, we've gotten phone calls at 12 and say, hey, I got a showing at 3. Do you have somebody available? Although as we progressed, this is starting to get a little bit further out as homes are starting to hit the market a little bit sooner, and agents are starting to call, hey, we got showings, on Friday and it's Wednesday, or Saturday and it's, Wednesday or Thursday. Do you have somebody available? But overall, these are typically last minute requests. So what happens at a walkthrough is we go out and we perform a walk around the exterior of the home. We are checking for the exterior siding. We're checking the deck. We're checking overall condition. We're looking at the exterior of the foundation, looking for anything major that's happening. And we will put a drone up. And because again, we really shouldn't be throwing ladders on the side of the house and climbing ladders and things like that, because that's not what a showing is for, right? And we don't want to cause damage to the house because, again, that's not what a showing is for. It's not for us to break out all of our tools. It's literally just a consultation and for us to see what we can see just by walking through the house. So, but we'll put the drone up because all of our inspectors are licensed drone pilots to get an aerial view of the roof to see the overall condition of the roof. We'll go inside. If there's a walk-up attic, we'll go up into the attic. We'll check for any leaks and the overall condition of the attic real quick. Again, because if it's a shuttle or a scuttle hole, then we really shouldn't be dragging ladders through. This is how this whole thing gets ruined for everybody, is we start dragging ladders through the house and we start banging on things that we shouldn't be banging on, and we cause damage during the showing, right? Again, 30 minutes, so limited time. We're going to go ahead and walk around the house looking for, make sure the windows, the doors, things like that are square and plumb, and that there's not any major cracking or deviation on the floors and all that stuff. Just signs of major conditions. And we're going to look at the water heater. We're going to look at the HVAC units to make sure that there's no obvious glaring discrepancies with them, as well as gather the age of those systems. So, because the clients always ask us really 3 things, what's the age of the HVAC, what's the age of the roof, and what's the age of the water heater. So we want to be able to provide that information, and we can just by doing these showings, walkthroughs, and things like that. So after that, we'll try to test the water, make sure the water heater is actually functional. We may, peek underneath some sinks to check what type of pipes for the water supply and the waste pipes are. And then after that, we'll actually go find a crawl space. And as long as the crawl space, again, is ample room in there to where we can get in there and get out without any issues or the potential of causing any issues, then we'll do an interior look of the crawl space. And we're really looking at the foundation at that point. We're not checking for like moisture damage in the typical spots. We're not really looking at every joist to see if there's anything damaged because, again, 30 minutes, right? We don't have a lot of time to do this. So we're really just looking at the overall condition of the crawl space and the condition of the foundation. And then once we're done, we're going to spend the rest of that time there, because we schedule them for an hour. We're going to spend the rest of that time really just talking to the client and explaining to them what we found and then of course answering or any questions that they may have, because that's why we're there. It's not much different when the client, because there has been some debate, and as a buyer's agent, I would imagine you should probably get the permission from the list agent for this to happen, to bring us along. But it's important to understand that when you're doing this, that we're not really, man, I need to do that part again. I was really just lost. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, that's fine. So as a buyer's agent, it's really important to go ahead and get the permission of the list agent to let them know that we're going to be coming along and doing a consultation or a walkthrough. Again, this is where the words matter. A lot of times when you say, well, I'm bringing a home inspector to do a showing inspection, they get the images of us throwing ladders and taking panels off and things like that, and doing some not so, invasive things, I guess. So it's important to really, really convey what it is that we're doing, because this is still very new to our area. There's still a lot of people that don't understand what it is that we're doing, and to be able to get us there. But we're really not doing much things that are much different than, when you bring, dad along, or when you're bringing your uncle along, from a client's perspective. The difference is that we know exactly where we're looking at, and we're bringing the knowledge of an industry with us. So it's a little bit more than just bringing somebody with you as a buyer, because of that perspective. But overall, our scope of work on site isn't much different than when you bring somebody along, a contractor, a friend, an uncle, a father, a mother, whoever that's going to be doing some of this stuff as well. The difference is that we're bringing the knowledge with us of what to look for. So that's the important parts, and that's really walkthroughs in a nutshell, right? So if you need a walkthrough, and hopefully sometime in the future, maybe in the near future, walkthroughs in our area become a thing of the past and we go back to full inspections. But for now, we're stuck with some walkthroughs, and that's okay. But if you need a walkthrough, make sure you contact our office, 804-998-0805, and we'll be sure to get you on a schedule. Thanks. Hey, thanks for watching our video. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you can be notified of any new content that we put on the channel.